Welcome to On This Day in Tudor History with me, Claire Ridgway, author of On This Day in Tudor History and a few other Tudor history books. Where am I taking you to today? Well, I'm taking you to the reign of King Henry VIII. For On This Day in Tudor History, the 15th of November 1527, Katherine of York, Countess of Devon and daughter of King Edward IV, died at her home, Tiverton Castle in Devon. She was aged 49 and she was laid to rest at St. Peter's Church, Tiverton, in funeral ceremonies on the 2nd and 3rd of December. Let me tell you a bit more about the woman who signed herself the excellent Princess Katherine, Countess of Devon, daughter, sister and aunt of kings. Catherine was the sixth daughter and ninth child of King Edward IV and Elizabeth Woodville, and she was born in 1479, probably at Eltham Palace. She was the sister of the famous princes in the Tower and also Elizabeth of York, who married King Henry VII following his defeat of her uncle Richard III at the Battle of Bosworth in 1485. During Catherine's childhood, there'd been negotiations for her to marry John of Asturias, eldest son of Isabella I of Castile and Ferdinand II of Aragon. Then, early in the reign of her brother-in-law, Henry VII, there were negotiations for her to marry James Stuart, Marquis of Ormond and Duke of Ross, the second son of King James III of Scotland. However, Catherine didn't marry until 1495, when she married Sir William Courtenay, son and heir of Edward Courtenay, 1st Earl of Devon. William was a loyal supporter of Henry VII, being created Knight Bachelor at Elizabeth of York's coronation in 1487, and helping the king to put down the rebellion of Pretender Perkin Warbeck in 1497. Catherine had two sons by William, Edward, who died in 1502, and Henry. They also had a daughter, Margaret. William fell from favour in 1502 when he was implicated in the plot of Edmund de la Pole, 3rd Duke of Suffolk. He was attainted and imprisoned in the Tower of London. Catherine managed to keep in favour, though, serving as chief mourner at the funeral of her sister Elizabeth of York in 1503. In 1509, following the accession of Catherine's nephew, Henry VIII, William was released from the Tower and he acted as a sword-bearer at the new king's coronation in June 1509. His father died that same year and William became Earl of Devon. William was restored to his lands and title on the understanding that Catherine would renounce her claim to her Mortimer inheritance, the lands of the Earldom of March. William died before negotiations were complete, dying in June 1511, just a month after being made Earl. In July 1511, 37-year-old Catherine transferred her Mortimer inheritance to King Henry VIII. Knowing that the king may arrange another marriage for her, Catherine prevented this by taking a vow of chastity in the presence of the Bishop of London. In 1512, the king granted the estates of the Earldom of Devon to Catherine for life, and a few months later made Catherine's 10-year-old son Henry Earl of Devon. Catherine chose to spend her time at her home Tiverton Castle rather than at court, but she did stand as godmother to Henry VIII's eldest daughter, the future Mary I, in 1516. Catherine was a wealthy woman, with an annual income of nearly £3,000. She enjoyed hunting and employed 3 fools to entertain her. They were called Dick, Mug and Kit. On the 2nd of May 1527, Catherine made her will, leaving money for 3 masses to be said daily for her by 3 priests at St. Peter's Church, Tiverton, in the presence of 3 poor men who were also paid. A weekly requiem was also to be held. Her household were each to receive a year's wages and a black gown. She also left provision for 8,000 poor people to be paid 2pence to pray for her soul. She died on this day in 1527, and at her funeral a few weeks later, a canon of Exeter Cathedral preached. Catherine was survived by her son Henry Courtenay, Earl of Devon and Marquis of Exeter, who came to a sticky end. He was executed in 1538 as a traitor after being accused of treasonous correspondence with Cardinal Reginald Pole. Catherine's daughter Margaret had married Henry Somerset, son and heir of Charles Somerset, 1st Earl of Worcester, but Margaret had died before 1526. Tomorrow, I'll be talking about an earl who died abroad heavily in debt as a result of rebelling against his queen. So do make sure you're subscribed, just click there, and that you've hit the bell to be notified so you don't miss that video. Also on this day in Tudor history, the 15th of November 1532, a rather cross Pope Clement VII threatened King Henry VIII and Amberlynn with excommunication. The English king had angered the Pope by defying his instructions and previous threats, and going his own way by setting aside Katherine of Aragon and living with Amberlynn. The Pope was not impressed with this disobedient king. In last year's video, I shared excerpts of the Pope's letter, as well as explaining the context and what happened next. I'll give you a link in the description so that you can catch up on that video. Thank you for joining me today. Do leave a comment if you like, and of course, do give me a like. Thank you. Bye-bye. Implicated in the plot of Edmund de la Pole, 3rd Duke of Suffolk? Can't